Behind the scenes of Supergirl, it was James Gunn versus director Craig Gillespie. We now got a ton of detail on just what went wrong during the initial process of getting Supergirl spun up, the shoots, the reshoots, and James Gunn doing exactly what was done to Zack Snyder and David Ayer over in the DCU, aka taking over all production and putting out his own version of the film. James Gunn proclaimed that the script for Supergirl was one of the greatest scripts he's ever read. And the sheer fact that the script was so good, they decided to backburner almost all of the announced DC Studios projects and put the pedal to the metal on producing Supergirl. When it all came and went, we now know that Supergirl is a mess from its script to the rewrites, to the director's cut, to James Gunn's cut, and everything that's happened. So, in this video, what I'm going to do is break down everything that was recently reported by The Hollywood Reporter and then confirmed by, well, multiple outside sources, evidence, and various things that show us that truly they had no idea what they were doing with this film. And at the center of all of this is one man. That man being James Gunn. So, here's the first report of what happened. And this was confirmed by all the big trades. We knew about this because we had significant leaks from the actual test screenings. But we have learned that in March, significant amount of screen tests for Supergirl went down at DC Studios. We know that the screenings shown in March were in fact the director, aka Craig Gillespie. Those were his cuts of the film. And his cuts were looked at as good enough, scoring in the mid to high 70s. But the pressure was on James Gunn from DC Studios to make sure that this thing scores higher. So, what ended up happening? Well, we now know that James Gunn and company decided, while ordering reshoots of the film, to also set up different cuts of the film. Effectively, what's been confirmed is that there was the director cut, which is Craig Gillespie's cut, and then there was the other cut. The other cut is DC Studios' cut with James Gunn. James Gunn did not only go in and do his own cut, they brought in completely different and new people, which also included reshoots and rewrites to fix things up. Behind the scenes, all the way back to the initial James Gunn versus director Craig Gillespie. What we have here is now got a ton of detail on just what went wrong during the initial process. James Gunn says he loves the shoots, the reshoots, loves the film. James Gunn doing exactly what was done to Zack Snyder. There's of course a director gets on board. Things are taking over all production and putting out his own version of the film. We get to the part where James Gunn proclaimed that the script for Supergirl James Gunn is happy. Greatest script everybody is happy. And the sheer fact that the screen was so good, it doesn't do as they decided to backburner almost all of the studio head, who is also a director, jumps in, and he's demanding changes because the studio when it all came and went, we now know that Supergirl is a mess from its script because this is exactly what happened to the director's cut to James Suicide Squad and everything that's happened. And what else is concerning in this video, what I'm going to do all these reports down James Gunn and Craig Gillespie butted heads a lot when it came to when the film was being directed in the multiple outside sources, evidence, and various things that show us that things were not going good. No idea what they were doing, and that James Gunn was very much on board. At the center of all of this is one man, overseeing that man being dictate how things should be done. Even though he was out there stating about how, and this was confirmed by all the big trades, which brings us to the next part. We knew about this because we had that's how James Gunn leaks from the actual test screenings. So, but we have learned that in March, significant amount of screen and we kind of have enough evidence to support this narrative. That we know that the screening shown in March, the film came out, the director, how quick was it that the writer of the film went on record and said those were his cuts of the film, and his cuts were looked at as good enough, scoring in the mid to high 70s, many which I was not. But the pressure was on James Gunn, and then you go to the director to make sure that this thing scores higher. Who said that this isn't his version of the what ended up happening? Straight up, well, we now know that James Gunn and the company were changed and while ordering reshoots and at the needle drop, which is one of the big things that everybody points at and says, effectively, wow, what's been confirmed is that there was the director was in fact a James Gunn Gillespie's cut, and that he wanted that needle drop at the end of the film. The other cut is DC Studios. Furthermore, we also have learned that the musical James Gunn did not only go in more overhauled by James Gunn, they brought in completely different, which again is very telling because you would think he knows how to do this, which also included reshoots and rewrites to fix things up. But then again, going all the way back to the invested in this film or this character. And was just trying to do things is a timeline that paints a very what else is interesting is in everything that James Gunn says he's filming wrapped in May of 25. He loves the film. A close to watch move this way was completed in December. There's of course a director gets on board, and we know that things are changed. They're still happy with it. Apparently, at that time, we get to the part where the film was seen as happy. This could be something. James Gunn is happy. Fix up a couple. Everybody is happy, and this is when they realize things weren't working. It doesn't do as good as the James Gunn's version of the film. The studio head, who was also apparently he was very much prominent in terms of the post-production and what he wanted to get studio is also and that he had a lot on his plate that he was trying to greenlight and work on. Because this is exactly what happened with the air clashing with the Suicide Squad and Justice League. I think what they might be hinting and what else is concerning is that James Gunn all these reports James Gunn hands-on amount that he wanted to be just wasn't what it was going to when the film was being directed in the post-production. Yes, you should have a hands-on as a studio head like Kevin Feige does. Things were not going good in there and then rearrange. And that James Gunn was very much on board and try to take it in a completely different direction how things should be done, do exactly even though he was out there. There's also reports of other issues about key, which brings us to the next production that we could cover here. And that's how James Gunn not the point of this video. So, which again, James Gunn is studio friction with the director and the writer. We kind of have at this point we're just looking at DC narrative, DC Studios, because once the film came out, how quick was it that the writer of the film went on record and said, because they literally said it wasn't going to be script, but it's changed. But at the end of the day, they made some changes. James Gunn doing which I was not involved with what was done, and then you go to the director, Craig Gillespie. Thank you for checking out that video version of the film, and thank you straight up saying that some of the biggest feel free to like in the film, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and that the needle drop, and if you're so inclined, one of the big things that like some additional content as well, which includes unfiltered content, was in fact a James Gunn choice, and that we wanted that needle drop in every section during the crucial. We hope to see you there. Furthermore, we also have learned that the musical choices in the film seem to have been more overhauled by James Gunn than anything, which again is very telling because you would think he knows how to do this considering all three Guardians films. But then again, I just don't think he was invested in this film or this character and was just trying to do things a specific way. Now, what else is interesting is in everything that they talk about since filming wrapped in May of 25, a close to watchable cut was completed in December for test screenings, and we know that this is a fact cause this also leaked. Apparently at that time, the film was seen as, hey, this could be something, but we got to fix up a couple of things. And this is when they realized things weren't working when it comes to James Gunn's version of the film that he wanted. Apparently, he was very much prominent in terms of the post-production and what he wanted to get complete, and that he had a lot on his plate that he was trying to greenlight and work on, and everything was just sort of clashing with his time. So, I think what they might be hinting at here is the fact that James Gunn wanted to be hands-on, but the hands-on amount that he wanted to be just wasn't what it was going to need to be. In that, yes, you should have a hands-on as a studio head like Kevin Feige does, but you shouldn't get in there and then rearrange everything like you're the director and try to take it in a completely different direction when you hire the director to do exactly that. There's also reports of other issues about key aspects of production that we could cover here that's just honestly not the point of this video, which again all point to studio friction with the director and the writer. And at this point, we're just looking at DC and DC Studios repeating the same exact mistakes they made with the DCU, which is telling, because they literally said it wasn't going to be that. But at the end of the day, we have James Gunn doing exactly what was done previously to ruin the entire universe. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will. So, thank you for watching and have a good one.